Initially, my onset was to create a video just about Breath of the Wild and my experiences with it. Then I figured, well, I have Tears of the Kingdom. I haven't started that either, so now that I've beaten, surely they fix some, hopefully all, of the glaring issues in Breath of the Wild, right?
Holy Jesus. What is that? What the fuck is that? What is that, Private Pile?
Some of my friends have said I'm looking too much into it, that the Zelda games have never been about the story, they're about the gameplay, and I starkly disagree with all of that.
But man, you can't deny that view.
Argue the original Legend of Zelda story was incredibly minimalist, which it was, but then you had Nintendo power to kind of fill things in. We're talking 1986 for the first game, and there's only so much they can put onto one of those cartridges. So, yeah, it was minimalist for story, but that was fine for the time. You knew what you had to do, you knew what your goal was, and you went and you did it. But as the series progressed, it got bigger, it got more involved. The story started to get fleshed out more in each game. We start learning that each one of these games is in their own version of Hyrule as an encapsulated universe, and that this cyclical thing, the Triforce being the metaphor for Link, Zelda, and Ganon being stuck in this cycle, and that three pieces of the Triforce together, they form a whole, like getting fleshed out. And Ocarina of Time brings in the sages. A Link to the Past brings in more lore behind how things are working and how the Triforce and their powers are playing into things. Twilight Princess brings in the whole Shadow Realm, brings in more backstory as to how there are, how Dark World has more of a play in the universe than we may have originally believed when it was first introduced in A Link to the Past. Each one of these games was evolving narratively, even though they were different iterations of Link and Zelda. And that is completely fine. And in Breath of the Wild, they tried that new approach, which I think by and large, from a story standpoint, failed because the world is just too big for how small they make their stories in these games. So where exactly did this disconnect come from that Nintendo seemed to have just not paid attention to any of the criticisms about Breath of the Wild? They're often very tone deaf to what fans actually want because they feel what they deliver is what fans will want, even if it's not what they wanted. And so, through that lens, is how I gained a new appreciation for Breath of the Wild. I was savagely waiting for it with the Nintendo Switch launch. I had set my expectations very high for that game as a fan of the franchise since the 80s when I played the first one when it released, because that's just how old I am. As I've been watching videos about Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild and criticisms about it, I came across Skitty Bitty's over 3-hour video about Tears of the Kingdom, which I agree with. Pretty much everything that was said in that video, after looking past everything that was annoying and glaring and wrong with that game to me, what I ended up appreciating was the world building. And I think Nintendo, that whole team that worked on Breath of the Wild, knocked that one out of the park. It was incredibly well thought out. You have this massive world, it's been destroyed, and it recognizes that this is a repeating cycle and that they need to rely on solutions of the past to secure the future of the kingdom. And from that point forward, once it's all pieced together, it's about a group of people, the denizens of Hyrule, coming together, understanding their role in this cyclical cycle to defeat Calamity Ganon, which happens every so many years. They figured out exactly when it's going to happen. Boom, there's your world story. It's very intricate, it's very well laid out. Even the choice of giving Link amnesia, while an overused trope at this point in movies, video games, just about everything, actually grew to appreciate in this game, while Link has amnesia, the player doesn't. And the game and the story and the way it's told is aware of that. So when you meet the leaders of the four areas where the divine beasts are, which are the Gerudo, the Zora, the Rito, and the Goron, all know Link had interacted with them over 100 years ago. Many of them didn't know that he fell fatally, defending Hyrule and Princess Zelda, but they are all aware that Zelda has been in the castle, holding back Calamity Ganon for this last 100 years while Link was reviving, along with the Master Sword. Each one of those leaders talks to Link as if they've known him since he was a kid. Link doesn't remember any of this, which is fine because we do. So we get to hear those stories, and in a way, there are a lot of retellings of things we've done in previous games with those races. In fact, even with the Zora storyline, they leaned into Mipha definitely being in love with Link, which they really hammer home with the armor being made for Link and that it's only made for those they give their heart to. And then, that was definitely a nice little harken back to Ocarina of Time and its snarkiness with Ruda. But once you get to see all of those things, the fact that Link is oblivious, despite getting some memories back throughout the game, it just kind of emboldens the resolve that he has as just this guy who knows he has to do this massive quest. It's just ingrained in him. They can wipe his memories, but he still understands his destiny, so to speak. From that perspective, you see that Link grows as a character again to fill that role. As soon as he awakens, he's right back on it. Once King Rome eventually reveals who he is, he tells you flat out, you can go right now to Ganon. It's not a wise decision, but you could. That's your main quest. It's given to you right there. It's solidifying that Link's destiny is this whole thing, and he's not trying to run away from it, actively just jumps right into it. So there's a lot to say for the world building in this game, which I think is done incredibly well. 6 years later, we get Tears of the Kingdom, and they ramp it up as a direct sequel. And that's where this whole thing starts to fall apart. It's already off to a bad start because the game opens, and it's Zelda. The only time they actually converse in the game, walking down to the depths of Hyrule Castle, which this gloom is coming out of, which have been opened as a result of the calamity. So we know that the calamity happened. We know that parts of Hyrule Castle are still destroyed, haven't been rebuilt, and new areas have opened up, and now a new mysterious gloom is coming out of it. Despite the fact that they had malice everywhere in the world from calamity, are we supposed to believe that this new gloom is worse than the malice? Because the malice was pure hatred, so what is gloom? If it's not pure hatred, what is worse than pure hatred? I don't know, and the game doesn't really bother to answer that question either. You go down to the depths of Hyrule Castle, you find the mummy awakens, destroys the Master Sword, destroys Link's arm, some weird tear-looking thing comes out. Zelda falls into a pit, goes back 10,000 years time, and then in this game, she suddenly now has the power of time, and it activates from her falling. Like, is everything with Zelda in this universe going to happen when life or death is about to happen? And that works in Breath of the Wild. But then when you do that same trope in the next game, it really weakens her character a lot. Because that means that unless she's on the verge of death, she's useless. So that cheapens her right off the bat in the start of Tears of the Kingdom. Right? And then Link's arm gets destroyed, and he gets some god's arm put onto him. And he's told through some exposition that he's done everything he could for Zelda to help her, and now it's up to Link to find her. Meanwhile, this guy knows the whole time, like, hey, bro, I could have told you something happened. Like, she fell back in time 10,000 years and found me. I'm the first king of Hyrule, and I'm a goat dude, and I have these jewels, these stones. But, like, your girlfriend, she figured out some cool shit, and she's a dragon up in the sky now. She revitalized the sword that you need to kill this dude because it's been healing inside of her for 10,000 years, making it the strongest version it's ever been. I'm just going to have you do these 4 shrines up here. Remember the Great Plateau? Yeah, we're going to do that. And then I'm going to say, good luck. And here's my arm. And you got some powers. and you can dive off an island. Welcome to Tears of the Kingdom.
Go back in time. Why don't we just find
Baby Ganon.
and